All right, so your test tomorrow is on sections 5.6 to 5.8. You are factoring when A is 1, factoring when A is not 1, factoring out the greatest common factor, then factoring again, factoring the difference of squares, the difference of cubes, the sum of cubes, and then solving by factoring completely. So if you look at number 1, we're just factoring x squared plus 14x plus 40. Your factors of 40 that add up to be 14 are 4 and 10. So this factors to be x plus 4 times x plus 10. For number 2, you have x squared minus 7x minus 32. Your factors of 32, if you don't know off the top of your head which factors add up to be negative 7, you can do them out. So you have 1 and 32, 2 and 16. 3 does not go into it evenly. 4 goes in 8 times. 5 does not go into it evenly. 6 does not go into it evenly. 7 does not go into it evenly, but then you have 8. So you have 1 and 32. If the 32 is negative, it's not going to give you the negative 7. You have 2 and 16. If the 16 was negative, it does not give you the negative 7. If the 4 and the 6, or sorry, the 4 and the 8 that you have, if you subtract them, and the 8 is negative, it does not give you a negative 7. So are there any factors of negative 32 that add up to be negative 7? No. So this one is prime. For number 3, you have x squared plus 4y. This is supposed to be x. X squared plus 4x minus 32. So if this is an x instead of a y, there we go. You are going to find the factors of negative 32 that add up to be positive 4. If you had a negative 4 and a positive 8, that give you the positive 4 that you're looking for. So the factors to be x minus 4 times x plus 8. For number 4, you have x squared plus 11x plus 18. You want to find your factors of 18 that add up to be 11. If you have 2 plus 9, that give you 11. So it's going to be x plus 2 times x plus 9. For number 5, you have 6x squared minus 5x plus 1. For this one, your a is not 1, so you're going to multiply your a and your c, so that's 6 times 1, which is 6. You're going to find the factors of positive 6 that add up to be negative 5. If you have a negative 2 and a negative 3, that give you the negative 5. So you're going to rewrite this as 6x squared minus 2x minus 3x plus 1. You have 4 terms now, so factor this by grouping. Factor out the greatest common factor from each set of parentheses. You have a 2x from the 6x squared minus 2x, and you have a negative 1 from the negative 3x plus 1. This is going to give you 2x times times 3x minus 1 times 3x minus 1. Your 2 sets of parentheses are identical to one another, so this gets written as 3x minus 1 times 2x minus 1. For number 6, you have 2x squared plus 5x minus 7. Again, your a is not 1. You do not have a greatest common factor, so you're going to multiply your 2 times that negative 7, which gives you negative 14. You want the factors of negative 14 that add up to be positive 5. That's going to give you a 2 that's negative and a positive 7. So this gets rewritten as 2x squared minus 2x plus 7x minus 7. Factor this by grouping. Factor out a 2x from the first set of parentheses. Factor out a 7 from the second. So you rewrite this as 2x times x minus 1 plus 7 times x minus 1. Your 2 sets of parentheses are identical, so that gives you x minus 1 times 2x plus 7. For number 7, you have 6x to the 5th power minus 7x cubed minus 5x. You have a greatest common factor in this one, which is x. So we'll factor that out first. And you'll have x times 6x to the 4th power minus 7x squared minus 5. You are now going to find your factors of whatever your a times your c is. So 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. You want the factors of negative 30, that add up to negative 7. If we have 3 and negative 10, that give us the negative 7 when we combine them. So you want to keep in mind that this is x to the 4th power. So when you write this out, you got to keep that x to the 4th power and that x squared when you write it as 4 terms. So this is going to give you x times 6x to the 4th power plus 3x squared minus 10x squared minus 5. You have 4 terms, so factor it by grouping on the inside. From the 6x to the 4th power and the 3x squared, you're factoring out a 3x squared. From the negative 10x squared and that negative 5, you're factoring out a negative 5. So this gets rewritten as x times 3x squared times 2x squared plus 1 minus 5 times 2x squared plus 1. Your 2 sets of parentheses are the same. So write this one more time as x times 2x squared plus 1 times 3x squared minus 5. You cannot factor anything else, so that is your answer. For number 8, you have 5x cubed plus 40. You have a greatest common factor between these two terms, which is 5. So you'll factor out that 5, and it gets written as 5 times x cubed plus 8. That x cubed plus 8 is the sum of cubes because you can take the cube root of that x cubed, and you can take the cube root of that 8. The cube root of x cubed is x. The cube root of 8 is 2. So you are going to use the formula a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. This is going to give you 5 times x plus 2 times x squared minus x times 2 plus 2 squared. This simplifies to be 5 times x plus 2 times x squared minus 2x plus 4. For number 9, you have x cubed minus 6x squared plus 9x. Your greatest common factor from these 3 terms is x. So you're going to factor out that x, and you're going to have x times x squared minus 6x plus 9. Your factors of negative 9 that add up to be negative 6 are negative 3 and negative 3. So this factors to be x times x minus 3 times x minus 3. You can write it like this, or you can write it as x times x minus 3 to the 2nd power. It's up to you. So I would take literally both of these. For number 10, you have 9x cubed plus 9. You have a greatest common factor between those two terms, which is 9. So factor that out first. That gives you 9 times x cubed plus 1. Once again, just like the one in number 8, you have a sum of cubes. So use the formula that we did in number 8, that a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. If you take the cube root of that x cubed, you get an a of x. If you take the cube root of that 1, your b is 1. So this gives you 9 times x plus 1 times x squared minus x times 1 plus 1 squared. Simplifying this, you have 9 times x plus 1 times x squared minus x plus 1. For number 11, you're given x cubed minus x squared plus 9x minus 9. We have 4 terms on this one, so we're going to factor by grouping. From the first 2, we're going to factor out an x squared. From the last, we're going to factor out a 9. This is going to give us x squared times x minus 1 plus 9 times x minus 1. Your two sets of parentheses are the same, so we write this as x minus 1 times x squared plus 9. You cannot do anything else with this since you do not have a difference of squares with that x squared plus 9. So that is your answer. For number 12, you have negative 5x squared plus 5. Your greatest common factor for this one is not just the 5, but the negative 5 since your first term is negative. So factor out that negative 5. You're left with negative 5 times x squared minus 1. That x squared minus 1 is a difference of squares. So you're going to factor that further to be negative 5 times x minus 1 times x plus 1. For number 13, you have x cubed plus x squared minus x minus 1. We're going to factor this one by grouping. From the first set of parentheses, you have an x squared. From the second, you have a negative 1. So this gets rewritten as x squared times x plus 1 minus 1 times x plus 1. Two parentheses are the same, so that gives you x plus 1 times x squared minus 1. You have a difference of squares again in that x squared minus 1, so that factors to be x plus 1 times x minus 1 times x plus 1. If you want to leave it like this, you can. That's fine. If it was me, I would leave it. But if you want to be a little bit more complicated with this, you can do x minus 1 times x plus 1 to the second power. It's the same thing. For 14, you have 8x cubed minus 1. The 8x cubed is a perfect cube. So is that 1. You have the negative in between. The cube root of the 8x cubed is 2x. The cube root of the 1 is 1. You have the negative, so you'll use a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. So this is going to give you 2x minus 1 times 2x to the second power plus 2x times 1 plus 1 to the second power. That 2x minus 1 is not changing. Inside the brackets, it becomes 4x squared plus 2x plus 1. Remember, when you take that a and you square it, you are actually multiplying it by itself. So that 2x to the second power is 2x times 2x, which gives you that 4x squared. For 15, you have 125x cubed plus 8x cubed. You can take the cube root of that 125x cubed, it's 5x. You can take the cube root of that 8y cubed, it's 2y. You have addition between these two terms, so you're going to use a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. Plugging our values in, this is going to give us 5x plus 2y times 5x to the second power minus 5x times 2y plus 2y to the second power. If we simplify this, we are left with 5x plus 2y times 25x squared minus 10xy plus 4y squared. For 16, we have 2x minus 3 to the second power minus 16. This could be a difference of squares. Well, it is a difference of squares. If we rewrite this as y is equal to 2x minus 3, so y squared minus 16. We take the square root of the y squared. We take the square root of the 16. That's y and 4. So this would factor to be y minus 4 times y plus 4. If y is 2x minus 3, we're going to take that 2x minus 3 and plug it back in for the y. So we have 2x minus 3 minus 4 times 2x minus 3 plus 4. Now, I wouldn't require you to do anything else with this. I would just let you leave it like this. But like I said, a question like this you will not see on your test tomorrow. For the next part of your review, you are solving by factoring. For 17, you're given x cubed minus 5x squared is equal to 0. You are going to factor out your greatest common factor from these two terms, which is an x squared. This leaves you with x squared times x minus 5 is equal to 0. From here, you're going to set each part equal to 0 and solve. So that means that x squared is equal to 0, as well as x minus 5 is equal to 0. For the x squared is equal to 0, take the square root of both sides. Your x is equal to 0, since 0 is neither positive nor negative. For the x minus 5 is equal to 0, add your 5 over. You get that x is equal to 5. So you have two solutions here. X is equal to 0, and x is equal to 5. For number 18, you have 2x squared plus 10x plus 12 is equal to 0. You're going to start this one by factoring out your greatest common factor, which is 2. That leaves you with 2 times x squared plus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. You have factors of 6 that add up to be 5, which are 2 and 3. So this factors to be 2 times x plus 2 times x plus 3 is equal to 0. You're going to set each part equal to 0 and solve. So that's going to be 2 is equal to 0, x plus 2 is equal to 0, and x plus 3 is equal to 0. That 2 is equal to 0, there's no variable there, so cross it out. It's a false statement, don't work with it. For x plus 2 is equal to 0, subtract your 2 from each side. You get that x is equal to negative 2. For x plus 3 is equal to 0, subtract your 3 from each side. You get that x is also equal to negative 3. For number 19, you have x minus 2 times x minus 3 is equal to 6. You want your equation to be equal to 0, not equal to this 6. So you have to FOIL out the left side first, then move that 6 over, and then refactor it and solve. So for this one, to FOIL this out, your x times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. From here, we are going to combine like terms on the left side to give us x squared minus 5x plus 6 is equal to 6. Then you want to move that 6 that's by itself over, so we'll subtract it from each side. And this gives us x squared minus 5x is equal to 0. Now that this is equal to 0, you can factor the left side, which the only way that we could do that is to factor out the greatest common factor. So that'll be x, and that gives us x times x minus 5 is equal to 0. Take each part, set it equal to 0, and solve. Your x is equal to 0. You don't have to do anything with that. It's already solved for. For x minus 5 is equal to 0, add your 5 to both sides, and you get that x is also 5. So two solutions, x is equal to 0, x is equal to 5. For number 20, you have 2x squared minus 9x minus 5 is equal to 0. Your a is not 1. You do not have a greatest common factor that you can factor out. So multiply your a times your c. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. You want the factors of negative 10 that add up to be negative 9. That's going to be negative 10 and positive 1. So this gets rewritten as 2x squared minus 10x plus 1x, or plus just x, minus 5 is equal to 0. You have 4 terms on the left side of that equal sign now, so factor this by grouping. Group the first 2, factor out the greatest common factor, which is 2x. Group the last 2, factor out the greatest common factor, it's just 1. So that gives you 2x times x minus 5 plus 1 times x minus 5 is equal to 0. We set this to where it's just x minus 5 times 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. And then we set them both equal to 0 and solve. For the x minus 5 is equal to 0, add your 5 over. You get that x is equal to 5. For the 2x plus 1 is equal to 0, subtract your 1 over. You get that 2x is equal to negative 1. Then divide each side by the 2, and you get that x is negative 1/2. So 5 and negative 1/2 are your two solutions for this one. For number 21, you have m cubed plus 4m squared minus 9m minus 36 is equal to 0. You have 4 terms on that left side, so you are going to factor this by grouping since your equation is equal to 0 and you can't do anything else. Factor out an m squared from the first, factor out a negative 9 from the second. This leaves you with m squared times m plus 4 minus 9 times m plus 4 is equal to 0. Your two sets of parentheses are the same, so you can rewrite this as m plus 4 times m squared minus 9 is equal to 0. You can still factor the m squared minus 9 since it's a difference of squares. If you don't want to do that and you just want to set that equal to 0, you can do that, but when you take the square root of both sides, you're going to have to remember to put the plus or minus in front of your answer. So if you are to factor it, you're going to have m plus 4, difference of squares, that means m minus 3 times m plus 3 is equal to 0. We set each part equal to 0, and we solve. So m plus 4 is equal to 0, m minus 3 is equal to 0, and m plus 3 is equal to 0. Move your 4 over, subtract it from each side. You get that m is equal to negative 4. Move your 3 over, add it to both sides. You get m is equal to 3. Move the other 3 over, subtract it from each side. You also have that m is equal to negative 3. So negative 4, 3, and negative 3 are your solutions. For 22, you have the absolute value of x squared minus 5 is equal to 4. It is possible for the absolute value to equal a negative 4, so separate this into two equations without the absolute value. You're going to have x squared minus 5 is equal to negative 4, as well as x squared minus 5 is equal to positive 4. Move your 5 over, add it to both sides. You can do this for both of them, and it's going to leave you with x squared is equal to 1, and x squared is equal to 9. From here, you're going to take the square root of both sides. So this is going to give you x is equal to plus or minus 1, and x is equal to plus or minus 3. For 23, we have the absolute value of x squared minus 3x minus 7 is equal to 3. That's a possibility, so separate this into x squared minus 3x minus 7 is equal to negative 3, as well as x squared minus 3x minus 7 is equal to positive 3. We're going to move that 3 over so that way both of our equations are equal to 0. So we're going to add the negative 3 over. So this is x squared minus 3x minus 4 is equal to 0. And we're going to subtract that positive 3 over. So that way you have x squared minus 3x minus 10 is equal to 0. You're going to factor both of these. We're going to work with the one on the left first. The factors of that negative 4 that add up to negative 3 are negative 4 and 1. So this is going to give you x minus 4 times x plus 1 is equal to 0. If you set these both equal to 0 and solve them, you have x minus 4 is equal to 0, x plus 1 is equal to 0. You move the 4 over by adding it. You get that x is 4. Move the 1 over by subtracting it. You get that x is negative 1. For the other one, your factors of negative 10 that add up to negative 3 are 2 and negative 5. So this is x plus 2 times x minus 5 is equal to 0. You set them both equal to 0 and you solve. So that's going to give you x plus 2 is equal to 0, x minus 5 is equal to 0. You move the 2 over by subtracting it. You get that x is equal to negative 2. Move the 5 over by adding it. You get that x is also 5. So your 4 solutions are 4, negative 1, negative 2, and 5. Remember with any of these questions to check your answers, plug each of the answers and individually to the original problem. If you get a true statement, once you simplify, you know that answer is correct.